recording for the session with your permission. I am supposed to record that. I forgot. So that's really nice to know. And you're the only one, as you said, from Uganda, right?
East Africa, yeah, from Uganda in this class. But I have a feeling there are others in different professions still at the University of IGNU. Yeah, but in journalism and mass com, like this particular class, I'm the only one from Uganda and
Okay.
East Africa.
East Africa on the whole. Good.
Yes.
I hope this kind of journalism education would help you in your profession as a radio professional. Oh,
Yes, and actually, my interest in future is to venture into the communications, like PR. I don't
oh,
know, public
so today we'll
relations.
discuss advertising and PR very briefly. My core area happens to be advertising and PR. So there is a specialized diploma that we did start in advertising and PR. If you want, you can join that when we offer it for international students. That probably would be more of your interest. I don't know if studying from a university in India is helping you or it's kind of giving you only a perspective. I don't know how much of gain it is, but I hope whatever you had in your mind, we're able to kind of do it. So,
Yeah, no, but the fact that I was able to get this opportunity,
uh-huh.
I think it will help. It will help me a lot in like achieving my dream or something like that. Because definitely most organizations these days need a master's program, especially in journalism and mass comm.
So
So
tell
this,
me one thing. In your university in Uganda, is there a journalism program by open education for working professionals like you? Do you have such programs there out in your country?
yeah, but mainly in a few universities. Most universities don't have masters in journalism and mass comm, apart from the state-owned university, that is Makerere University, which is also very far from the city where I live. Just a handful of universities have masters in journalism and mass communication.
We are
But I
very glad
see,
that, because of this new media, globally, we can interact with each other. You can join a course in another country and we can teach you across the internet. It wouldn't have been
yes,
possible otherwise,
because
other than online.
yeah, because now the I mean this particular program from the University of IGNU uh, is more easier for me. I can just connect through the internet and I'm able to learn compared to me traveling from this city
Yes, of
to
course.
another
Yes.
city, to study. So this one is more easier for me.
And
I
is this
can
one
study when
interesting also? Give me an honest opinion now that you've gone through almost all the classes over last 3-4 months. How has
yeah,
been the experience?
no, it's been interesting because I mean the lecturers are very committed, to
Hmm.
teach. At least we've seen lecturers come to teach every other time, and they've been also helpful. Like for instance, we have Madame Apama in our WhatsApp group. She's always guiding us on so many things. I think we should add you also to help us in some areas. Yeah, but the lecturers have been very good. All the lecturers. I don't think there's been any problem there.
I think 4 5
So
of us have taught you by now. That's good. Alena, but one thing I really feel that you people are supposed to go through your study material before we meet, because discussing a whole course for say 8 hours is, I mean, one block where we're supposed to just devote 2 hours to one block. We can't be teaching you. You have to read it and then come to us with, like, you've just put up a question in the chat box. We'll discuss that about yellow journalism and tabloids. It is more of an interaction and a counseling session rather than a teaching session. So as a teacher, I feel that has kind of been missing. It's been a really interesting experience. In last few classes we had more students joining in. Today I think being a 4 hour class we have lesser students, though it has been interesting for me. But I really thought if you people had already gone through the study material that we provided to you, it would have been better learning and a better kind of an interaction with you guys.
yes, it's true. We do actually try to go through the study material, but also given the nature of our work, most of us work during the week, so we are able to only read a few notes and then yeah. But we shall try to read at least by the time the
Also, in
exams
my classes,
happen.
I've been trying to give you a summary of each of the units so that when you go and read them, it's not new to you. You
Yes,
basically
yes,
know. I mean, we're just trying to give you an overview of what each unit covers.
yes. But we shall try our best to really
And
go
tell me
through the
also one
material.
more thing with these Indian examples and Indian laws. I mean, do you feel lost? Do you feel okay? It will be helpful to kind of know some things.
Yes, because but what I've first of all realized is that there's not much difference between the Indian laws and the ones of Uganda in regards to the media generally.
Okay.
It's only maybe I don't know, apart from but I think there's just a general, like they're almost, I don't know how to explain it much,
Basic
but they're
understanding
almost
would be this.
similar. Yeah,
Yeah, I
they're
get it.
almost similar.
So even if you will
So
have to do a little
there's
more spade
there's
work
no problem.
to
Sorry.
know exact, you will have to do a little more research and spade work to know exact laws of your country, but a general understanding would be useful. I agree to
Yes.
you.
Yeah, so there's no harm in that. It's perfect. I mean, it's very good as a journalist. I mean, we're not supposed to be only like on the know of laws in our countries, but we also have to know about what is happening elsewhere in the world.
So that international awareness counts. I'm glad, because as a teacher, I was very apprehensive for this subject particularly, because in this subject, it's very particular, specific to India, Indian
Yeah.
constitution, Indian law, Indian this. So I was like, how are international students trying to gain from it? So I'm trying my best to put it in perspective for all of you. And I'm really glad to this interactive group. Where is Simon? Where is Gonde? Where are they lost? Are you there,
Huh?
guys?
I think
We're
they're
waiting for
coming
you
back in
to
a chat.
begin with the formal class. And Elena, one more thing. I have to come to this salon. They've done a very good job on you. I don't know what you are
Ah,
getting done there, but your skin is bright. I mean, you look awesome. So off
oh,
the
thank you
record.
so much. But then I wanted to find out something. It's about exams, first of all.
Please.
Um, I wanted to get clarification. Are
Yes.
we going to have exams in June, or it will be pushed to December? Or do we have to choose when to do exams? Because that has
As an
been.
IGNOU learner, you of course have the freedom and the liberty to choose when you wish to appear. Generally, IGNOU exams are held in June and in December. For the international students, they might get a little delayed depending on the schedules. That would be later. But whenever they are held, you have a choice to choose to appear after 1 year. So this diploma that you have joined is minimum of 1 year, and maximum you get 3 years to do it. So if you don't want to appear in for the first batch of exams that are offered to you, say in June or July, that would be decided, right? You have the liberty of going to December or even to next June. And on the other side, you also have the liberty of appearing for some subjects now and for some later. Like, for example, your 6 theory subjects. If you feel I'm very tied up with work and I can't appear for all 6, you can choose to appear for 2 or 3 now and 2 or 3 later.
Oh, okay, because and then another thing I wanted to find out, how long is I'm doing a master's.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I want to find out how long is the master's program? Is it 2 or 3 years?
It is 2 years minimum. You've taken the master's degree admission, not the
Yes.
diploma. So the
No.
degree is minimum 2 years and maximum 4 years. So minimum we
Oh.
give you 2 years to complete it, but because we understand all of, like you said, you all are working professionals and you might be tied up with deadlines and other work and not appearing for the exams. So then you get another 2 years to complete it. So 2 to 4 years. Two to
Oh.
4 years. Right?
But one can also decide to just complete like in 2 years
Of
without.
course, of course, of course. 2 years you can decide to complete, and we would wish you to complete in 2 years so that you are able to take advantage of the degree in your profession and in your career. But being working professionals, being tied up with life, if you for some reason you're not appearing or not able to appear for certain exams, you have the liberty for appearing every 6 months, like another 6 months, another 6 months, another and another. For next 2 years, you have the liberty to complete your course over 4 years. So it's not
Okay.
like that, Kelena has appeared for, say, 8 papers out of 12, and now her 2 years went for a waste. No, you still have time to appear for 2 more and complete your degree. That's only
Okay.
in
Thank you.
cases of problems. If you're able to do it in 2 years, most welcome. That's an ideal thing, of course.
Thank you. Because I mean that has really been causing confusion
No,
among the
IGNOU,
students.
as you would have read, IGNOU is called the People's University in India, and there is one major motto that we go by: learn at your own pace, at your own place, right? So pace and place is like you're learning at your place. You don't need to come to Delhi to study. You are learning in Uganda, right? And in your own
Yeah.
pace, as in if you feel you can appear for your exams within 1 year, well and good. If for some reasons you can't, then we still respect your busy schedules and your life, and we give you a liberty to appear in the next 6 months also. So your paper would be 100 marks each. Traditionally, it's a 3-hour paper, and you would be appearing for that paper. And before that, you have to finish your assignments. I think you would have. So to be able to fill the exam form, you should submit the assignment. Have you submitted the assignments?
Yes, yes. I have already submitted the assignment. Okay,
Mhm.
initially I was caught up by time. I'd not submitted the last one, but when an extension was made, I was able
Yeah.
to submit
Then you took
this
advantage of
one.
the extension.
Yes, yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So at least with assignments now, I'm done. I'm working on the practical ones.
That's really nice.
We have the practical set also. So I'm working on those now. So what you're saying is we shall be able to fill a form to choose when to sit the exams, right?
Yes. So you can choose to appear for all your exams of first year together. And if by chance, you miss one, you still have the liberty for that for the next 6 months.
Okay.
You in
Thank you
June,
for that.
so or maybe you don't fare well and you don't pass that exam for some reason, you still can appear for that exam again.
Okay. Thank you. Because personally, I feel like I've not read enough. So I wanted to really sit for the one of December, all of it.
That
Yeah.
feeling would always be there. That positive stress is always good. But after going through the counseling classes, and because you're a working professional, I think you'll be able to fare well. And wherever you get stuck, we are there on the email. Even if the counseling sessions do end today, this is the last one. We are still available on the email for any doubts or anything once you start reading, any doubts that you have.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Did you
Thank you.
appear? Did you submit the assignments for this subject, MGM 025, Media Ethics and Laws?
Yes, I did. I
And
already
assignments, I
submitted.
fear, I fear the assignments were all from the Indian perspective.
Yes, most of them, but we're able to read through and research. But there were others that we also could actually answer using our own
Yes, yes,
countries.
that's
Let's
what I
say,
was
yeah,
arriving at. Even if you've been asked about an Indian case, you can draw a parallel from your kind of thing, and that would involve. See, assignments we try to push you to research. Exam questions are more to do with your study material and then appearing from the theoretical perspective. Assignments we try to
yeah,
put you to practical kind of work, searching from the internet,
yes,
from
yes,
quoting examples from around you. It's
yes.
really nice interacting with
So
you. I really feel that we're helpful in your career goal achievements. Yes. What were you saying,
yes,
please?
you have been so much helpful, and I believe after getting this paper, I'll be able to go places. Yeah, because I mean, like I told you earlier, my interest is now in like public relations.
Mm-hmm.
So getting this particular paper will help me, attain that dream.
Public relations, yes. We have a specialized course, as I told you. Here we'll be discussing public relations very, very briefly. One course
Yes,
is there in which you have one block on public relations and one on advertising, a very brief kind of an introductory block. So you can also choose to join a specialized course on PR that we are offering.
okay, fine.
That can be later.
How 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 will I be able to join that particular one? Because I'm more interested also in public
Cool.
relations.
Let's take it step by step. First, you finish this one, which you have already joined, and if you really feel
Okay.
good about how IGNO kind of you and IGNO are able to gel up, then you can always mail us, and I'll give you the details for that next course. Because my core area is advertising and PR, and I coordinate that course. I'll be really glad to have more students like you. So let's see if you offer it for the international platform. It's too nascent a stage.
Oh, okay, fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you
Just
for switching on your camera. Thank you for asking your doubts. See, apart from the
uh,
course material, of course, these are useful things where you're confused about the exams, about the assignments, about other courses. So I encourage you to ask this. Have other people joined in? You've been able to put in the group. I don't see other people joining.
let me. I
Because
was taken
Sunday,
up in the
others might also
interaction.
be in salons.
Okay, so let me actually tell them to come back.
Where is Simon and Gonde? Are you there, guys?
Yes, as for me, I'm here,
Okay, Mia,
and
Mia.
I've and I've
Yes,
been I've been following the conversation. I've also benefited.
okay, thank you. So
Yes,
you
yes, I
were
followed.
actually listening to the two ladies talking through the class. Great. So I'm glad that you benefited from the conversation. Any other questions that you want to ask about assignments, about exams, about anything? Like Alene did have doubts. Gaunde, to begin with, why don't you tell me the meaning of your name? Alene had a very beautiful meaning, which is a French goddess, she told me. So what does your name mean?
Gondwe is just a name, doesn't have a specific meaning, by the way.
Okay. And
But
Gondwez
my
is
first
your
name,
second name. What's your first name? That's something
my
difficult to
first,
pronounce.
yeah, first name is so difficult to pronounce. I don't think you would manage.
You can still tell me, and if that has a meaning, please tell me about that.
But the meaning is we've been blessed.
And what's the name? Just pronounce it for me.
The name is Sibusisiwe.
Sibusi Siwe. Okay, sorry for the tech twister, but sounds beautiful. And the meaning is equally beautiful to be blessed.
Yes,
And you are
it's too
from
long.
Malay.
Yes, from Malawi. Yes,
She's from
it's a
Uganda.
longer name.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
So, any doubts that you have about the course before we go into the hardcore teaching that we'll do another hour?
Basically, some of the things that you were discussing
Mm-hmm.
were some of the things that maybe we also engaged on the same with her, with the alien. We talked at length on the same, but I feel like you have tried to explain how to go about it. But basically, maybe on the practical assignments now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm told we're supposed to have submitted those practical assignments by June, 30th June.
Okay.
Am I
Is
right?
there an extension on the date? I am not aware of the
On
extension. Initially,
on
it
that
is
one, we don't.
30th of April.
We only had an extension of the exams on the first batch of the exams that maybe some of us have already submitted. So we're just remaining with the practical ones. So I was at pains to understand to say if I finish submitting the practical assignments,
Mm-hmm.
so what next? What happens? When do I sit for, say, my exam? Because
Okay.
we're also taught by Professor Aru that we have exams in June, and
June.
there is there is another set of students who are currently signing the forms for exams and whatnot. So we're like, how is this also involving us, or what is it all about?
Okay.
So at
Okay.
least you have,
Okay. So your
yeah.
practicals are different from your theory exams. So your theory
Mhm.
exams are six, right? Six theory exams from 0 to 0 to 5, MGM 020 to 0 to 5. Six theory exams, you need to submit the assignments, which I presume most of you have submitted with the extension of the last date. After you've submitted your assignments, you can fill your exam form and appear for these theories. Now, your practicals are separate two papers. They have nothing to do with the term and examination, as in you don't have to appear for the theory exams for them. So when you finish making your practical file, you can submit it. It is not the same last date as assignments. Your practicals, you're open to submit any time of the year. So these June exams, I think it did get delayed for the previous batch because it was a first international batch. So they might be appearing for their exams, but you are free to appear for your exams in June. To be able to appear for a theory exam, you should have submitted the corresponding assignment. For say, if you have submitted the assignment for MJM025, which is Media Ethics and Laws, you can sit for the exam. And whenever you finish writing your practicals, you can submit it and then a viva would be conducted. For that, you don't have to appear for a theory written exam. So practicals, you would have a viva, which would be online again for you guys, and you will be assigned the marks. So you are now eligible to sit for your exams in June for whichever paper you have submitted the assignments. So assignment is a prerequisite to be able to appear for the written exam. And for the June exam, if per chance, for any reason, you are not able to appear or you are not able to pass the exam, you have another chance to sit for your exam in December. So in IGNOU, we conduct exams every 6 months. So that whenever you lose a chance, you don't lose the chance to do your diploma or degree. Does it lend some clarity to you, Gondwal?
Yes, at least you have clarified some area there, because most of us we are still uh, in dark as to what is really happening and how is it happening, because there is I'm also in a certain group where some student was asking about
Mhm.
the search forms and whatnot, but the exam forms that we should sign. But up until now, those forms have not yet been uploaded in our LMSs. So we're just asking us, maybe do they have due dates and whatnot? When that have any repercussions on our part, if say those forms are submitted or are uploaded at a very late date, what really
Yes,
happens?
they still have date. You can tell in the group they still have a date and an option to appear for the June exams. Till 30th of April, they can fill their forms and everybody can appear for the June exams. And even if they fill the forms after that, they will automatically become eligible for the next cycle of exams.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. That makes sense now.
Right?
That makes sense. So I
So
can
whenever
still
the
write
cutoff date is finished, and if somebody submits after the cutoff date, they automatically become eligible for the next one. And similarly for the assignments, if somebody submits the assignments after the cutoff date, their assignments would be considered for the next set of exams.
it makes sense.
Okay, I am glad it makes sense and it helps you some way. And I'm glad that you people are putting up questions so that it benefits everyone. So even if your other classmates have not joined, if they have such doubts in the group, you can always tell them now that you know it. Right?
Yes, understood.
Okay, so do I begin with the formal class? With two of you, I'm sure you are there. Others, I don't know. So I have just put off my camera to avoid the internet bandwidth being overused. So we have this unit 9 on intellectual property rights. The presentation is visible to you, Alene and Conway. And Simon, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Do you have any
Yes.
doubts, Simon? You've been listening patiently to our discussions. Any doubts?
No, no from me, no.
Glad. Okay, I'll again quickly go through this. I have 90 more minutes. You can intervene. You can tell me to stop. If you need a break, you can tell me. And I think 90 minutes are enough because I'll briefly touch upon these. They are there in your study material to read. Now, we are beginning with block 3. As I told you, it will have intellectual property rights. It will have copyright, right to information. So these are information laws that this block deals with. Before going to the break, I told you about the contents of the block. So this is Unit 9, which you will read. It has intellectual property rights. The unit structure, I think, do you appreciate the way we have structured your units? We introduce you to the concept, what will be discussed in the unit, and then we try to put the concepts to you. So in this unit, we shall discuss the concept, nature, and scope of IPR, how to defining IPR, why is it important, then the evolution and growth of IPR internationally and globally. We shall deal with the Paris Convention, the Berne Convention, General Agreement on Tariffs of Trade, which is TT, and then the Rome Convention. Then we shall deal with World IP Organization, objectives of WIPO, programs and activities of WIPO, and then the emergence of the new trading system like WTO, TRIPS, and then the components of IPR, which are patent, trademark, and copyright. So I'm glad this unit is more of a global and an intellectual, international perspective, and less to do with the Indian kind of thing, though we will have Indian examples here too. So very briefly, very quickly, I'll just go through the overview of this unit. Today, as you see, development and growth have been made possible by outcomes of the human intellect, which need legal protection. There is a lot of, there is one thing to have a physical property like a land or maybe have a possession like a car or a house. There is another thing to have an intellectual property where you use your brain, you use your talent to actually make something possible for the humankind. So worldwide, there is no secret that so much of development has been made possible because of the outcomes of the human intellect, which needs to be legally protected. So in this unit, we shall get in detail about various aspects of this IPR. In the increasingly globalized world, and one example of globalization is you and me sitting at different corners of different continents and still interacting in one real-time situation in this class. So this increasingly globalized world, it is important for us, for you and for me to be aware of this very important law, which has had a lot of international kind of attention. Right? In this unit, the learning outcomes, what we expect you to learn out of this unit when you go through this in your reading material, that you should be able to discuss the concept and nature of IPR, describe the evolution of IPR in the historical perspective. We wish to acquaint you with WIPO, explain and enumerate these concepts. So, what is the concept of IPR actually? IPR, or intellectual property right, as we call it, is broadly it means the legal rights which result from intellectual activity in the industrial, scientific, literary, or artistic fields. So, any artist, the drawings, the paintings are protected by this, or musical notes. Authors, when they write something, scientists, if they make certain discoveries, inventions, or any industrial kind of uh, productions, they are all protected by certain laws, which are IPR laws. IP, which is intellectual property, refers to ownership of an idea or design by the person who came up with it. So not only an design, even if we have an idea which can we can actually claim the right, the intellectual property right to that idea. So according to the World IP Organization, I'll just define it. IPR refers to creations of the mind, inventions, literary and artistic works, symbols, names, images, and commerce. So, all these are under the purview and the perspective of this kind of intellectual property. So, that just give you an overview. I am sure you have heard and known about this earlier also, because all of you are working professionals. But to put it in perspective, let me define IPR. The concept of property has existed from times immemorial. We all know that. Encyclopedia Britannica defines intellectual property as a property that derives from the work of an individual's mind or intellect. Since IPR is a right over an idea, so it covers everything under an idea. I've thought of an idea, I've perceived an idea, I've come up with an idea. If I put it on paper and I claim it's right, it will be granted to me. Why is IPR important? Isn't it a free world after all? Whatever Elena thinks, she can tell me. Whatever I think, Gonde and Simon can benefit from it. That is how we make the world go around, by this human altruism. Then why is it that we need IPRs? Why is it that we need to protect our properties? Shouldn't it be a socialistic, as we call it, socialistic economy? Shouldn't it be a socialistic intellectual world all around? Wouldn't it be more beautiful? Why do we need it? IPR is important because IPRs are vital for economic growth. They allow owners of intellectual property to derive financial benefits from the property that they have created. If I have created a beautiful tune to a music or a musical note, then I have the right of taking financial benefit from my hard work. So therefore, they are needed. IPR encourages innovations, rewards entrepreneurial ventures, because why else would someone be interested in doing it till they are not reinforced? Intellectual property helps the generation of breakthrough solutions to some major global problems. For example, nearly all the 300 products on the World Health Organization's essential drug list, which are crucial to saving or improving people's lives around the globe, came from a lot of research and development. So, which is so intensive in the pharmaceutical industry that it depends on the present protections. So, if so much of research, so much of money, so much of time, so much of effort goes into developing a drug, a life saving remedy, then of course people should have the protection of it. I mean, it shouldn't be that someone is spending all their effort and someone else is just gaining from it free of cost, free of any kind of hard work. Now, what is covered under the scope of IPR? We said that again, I'll say that. Literary, artistic, and scientific work, performances of performing artists, uh, phonograms, broadcasts, inventions in all fields of human endeavors, scientific discoveries, industrial designs, trademarks, service marks, commercial names, designations, protection against unfair competition, to all the rights resulting from IPR activity in the industrial, scientific, and literary work. So, do you think you will be able to define IPR now? And I would want to know from you, does IPR also cover tangible things like table, bottle, fan? Does it cover that? Yes, friends. Does intellectual property also cover tangible objects? And do you agree to the concept of intellectual property? I mean, safeguards against it, or do you think that it's an utopian world and we should all be sharing our intellectual property with each other without being safeguarded? Why do we need these laws to safeguard? Should there be friendly sharing without any hue and cry about my intellectual property, my rights, my saving? What are your views on it, guys?
And I think intellectual property rights are very important, especially for innovators, for people who create new things. It allows them to commercialize that, but and in so doing, it does encourage them and also other people to benefit from their work. Normally, this would be an outcome of a lot of work and a lot of effort. So you don't want other people to kind of steal their effort and just use it anyhow. It's a very good concept. I do agree with the IPR concept, and of course
Tell me one thing. Let me just encourage this debate in the class. Tell me one thing. We've had these religious leaders. We've had Christ. We've had Buddha. We've had, Muhammad. We've had Guru Nanak, and all these people across the countries. They did give sermons. They gave teachings, and those teachings have been recorded in religious books like Bible, Quran, Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, across different religions. Now, you and me, as individuals, as citizens of this world, we benefit from these preachings, right? They did not ever claim religion, intellectual property on that. Jesus never said that my teachings should be covered under intellectual property, nor did Muhammad, nor did Guru Nanak in my part of the world or in your part of the world, neither did Buddha. So was it wrong? Should their teachings and preachings also be covered under IPR? Or are we becoming more greedy and more insensitive towards the general good of the world, and we're claiming rights over this? I mean, just for the sake of encouraging this debate in the class, I would like to ask all of you this. The concept of IPR never existed in those times. Was it wrong?
no, if we take it from a religious point of view, then that's a quite different dimension. I mean, religious and spiritualism actually, of course, teaches about giving.
And those were individual ideas of some great men.
Yes.
I mean, those were the ideas that emerged in the heads of Jesus or Muhammad or Guru Nanak or anybody, and that they did share it freely with the world.
Precisely. That's what I'm saying. So every idea has got, every idea, every person that has got an idea has got their own I'll call their own principle. The Christian religion and spirituality runs on quite different principle from say capitalism and commercialism. It's quite different. So we do agree. I do agree. I mean, I do read the Gita and some Buddhist philosophy. I do read that. These are brilliant ideas, and basically, this would be if they were.
Do they need to be protected under IPR?
Now that's what I'm saying.
Do the writers or the authors of these ideas need to be protected?
That's what
Well, the floor is open for others to contribute as well. I get Simon's point of view. He says religious and journal good for the people ideas are open for all. What do you feel, Bondway, Elena? What's your take on this? Do we need to protect these religious texts under IPR? Of course, there were some humans, some great humans who gave all these scriptures.
Just as Simon is saying, protecting religious issues are always controversial. So I would say there is no need. There is no need because they were freely given to us by our forefathers and whosoever that we believe who gave us.
So they were freely given to us because the concept of IPR did not exist. The laws were not there.
Of course, the laws were not there, yes, but they were freely given unto us. So just because we also want to give the same to others, that's the more reason patenting or even involving the IPRs on them would be difficult because we wouldn't have new members, because we would want to have new members by giving such freedom to them, so that they maybe, if they are convinced with what we are propagating, they will join us. Yes.
Got it. Great. So I think humanity is humanity because there are certain people who never claimed rights on their intellectual ideas, properties, preachings, and therefore you and me gain from it. So sometimes people might not want to do it out of the altruistic motives of the human good. Sometimes people might want to do it because they, after all, don't want to be exploited. So there are two sides to the coin. And I think both of these are beautiful. We can accept both these sides as right. And there is no particular right or wrong. So as I said, these did not exist earlier. When did this concept of IPR start evolving and existing? The growth of IPR can be seen in light of two major conventions for the protection of IPR. One is the Paris Convention for the protection of industrial property, which was held in 1883 when industrial revolution came in, when we were new to the machinery. So this was held, and the Berne Convention for the protection of literary and artistic work. So one deals with the industrial works and one deals with intellectual artistic literary works. These two conventions have undergone various changes since then, and they have been brought under the supervision of World IP Organization, which was constituted as late as 1967 as a result of the treaty, which was signed by the members in Stockholm, right, on July 14, 1967. The Agreement on Trade-Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Right is an international legal agreement between all the members and the nations of World Trade Organization, which is WTO. So there are two aspects to it. One is protecting industrial and trade, which is economic kind of property, and one is to protect the literary artistic kind of property. We'll kind of discuss in detail these two conventions which are there. I hope the presentation is visible to all of you. This presentation is made from your study material only. I've not gone out of that, so you can refer to the study material also. So Paris Convention has that it said that patents are granted in different contracting states of the same invention, and these are independent of each other. For example, when something has been invented, it goes through different stages. So patents can be granted at every stage, right? So contracting states have been told to grant a patent cannot be refused, annulled, or terminated in any contracting state on the good that has been refused or annulled or has been terminated in, sorry, this is a repetition. So you cannot terminate this contract. If something has been granted, it would be granted. The inventor has the right to be named as such in the patent. So whenever you are putting a patent, the Paris Convention says you have to give the credit or the name to the inventor of that thing. The grant of the patent may not be refused or be invalidated on the ground that sale of the patented product or of the product obtained by the means of the patent is subject to restrictions. Even if the sale is subject to limitations or restrictions, the patent will still be granted. That is what the Paris Convention said. It says that this Paris Convention, however, does not regulate the conditions for filing and registration of marks. Where a mark has been duly registered, the country of the origin has to be certified. You have to say that in which country the invention originated. So Paris Convention, as we said, is more to do with the industrial design or inventions. Industrial designs must be protected, and the trade names. So if there is any name that a trade organization has, even that name can be protected. Indications of source must be made, measures must be taken on each state of the contract. So these are legal documents where people can protect their designs. And the Paris Convention also talks of unfair competition. It says that each state must provide for effective protection against unfair competition. If there is one patent that somebody has taken, so people cannot just make copies of that patent. People can't say, oh, similar inventions we have, and we will also get our ideas patent. So these are all verifications that must be done to protect somebody against unfair competition. So this is broadly the Paris Convention, what it says. Now we come to the Berne Convention. This has three basic principles. That this is more to do with the literary and the artistic work. The three basic principles that were discussed in the Berne Convention are that the works originating in one state, contracting state means stage of invention, must be given the same protection at each stage. Later, you can be granted the works of own nations and nationals can be granted. Protection must be conditional upon compliance with any formality. There should not be any formalities that should be, conditions should not be laid. If somebody is coming to the organization with a patent, with a request, if the person is able to prove that this idea or work is original, literary or artistic, then the person should be unconditionally be granted the patent. There are certain minimum standards that are marked that had to be followed. So there are certain principles that are there. You should be given the right to translate, the right to make adaptations, the right to perform your literary thing in the public also. So these rights are granted to the person who has the patent. The right to reproduce the work, the right for the duration of the protection in the journal laws. In the 50th year, there is there. After a certain time, that right ceases to be there. The three basic principles in Berne Convention are actually followed. So these protect a lot of writers and a lot of creators, advertising creators, artists, painters. They're all protected under this. So Paris and Berne Conventions, you can read in detail. Another thing that we need to discuss is the Journal Agreement on Tariffs and Trades, which is GATT. This is a product of growing realization by all the member nations that they are in the field of trade and commerce. Also, we need to protect certain standards. We need to ensure that there is full employment, there is development. To achieve these objectives, people are encouraged to have certain agreements to protect these things, right? Then there is the Rome Convention, which was there, where performers are protected against certain acts, and the producers of phonograms have the rights to be protected. So these kinds of even the photographers and such kinds of artists are also protected. There are broadcasts that has to be done from your piece of literary work, that also is protected under these things. World IP Organization is there, and there is a WIPO agreement which says that this was a landmark event in the history of protection and promotion of IP rights. This convention established WIPO, which was in Stockholm, as we said. So the WIPO has been designated as a specialized body of United Nations, which also acts as a complementary body with World Trade Organization to promote the intellectual property rights. The objectives of WIPO, which is World IP Organization, are to have harmonious national IP legislatures. Each nation is free to have their intellectual property laws, but WIPO as an international body looks at it that these laws should be harmonious to the international standards. Exchange of information in the IP laws over the nations to facilitate the resolutions of these international guidance and objectives is what this body also looks into. So there are these programs and activities of WIPO are there where it says that computerization has actually helped put everything under one domain. You can now check of the patents and trademarks even on the international platforms on the internet. You, if you wish, you can just go to the internet, you can go to their site and you can see which are the patents that are existing. So even the people are being educated, all these comprehensive educational trainings and all on gaining the patents as being provided. So these kinds of activities WIPOs has actually done. Now there is another beautiful emergence, which is emergence of a new trading system. Successful, conclusion of there was a round trade negotiations that were passed, and Uruguay round negotiations formally began in 1986, and by 1994 there was emergence of a new trading system. So World Trade Organization came into being. The establishment of World Trade Organization, WTO, is considered as a landmark in the history of multilateral trading systems, or although there are many disturbing features in regards to economic interests of developing countries. I mean, where the developing country says that WTO takes in consideration only the developed nations. There are such debates going on, and debates are good to have, because if there is some criticism only, then the improvements would happen. But still, WTO is a very good, things which it takes into consideration. And then there is a development of TRIPS. It is an international legal agreement which reflects the concern of the members regarding need of promoting effective and adequate IP rights internationally. So there's an assertion on international IPR which has happened, and then there are different components of IPR which World Intellectual Property Organization (WTO) and TRIPS have specified aims and objectives to protect these IPRs. So there's a brief. In brief, we can say these are patent, trademark, and copyright. So what is a patent? Any person whose invention has novelty or involves intensive steps of industrial application can actually claim a patent. Trademark is something different. A trademark is a distinctive sign that identifies certain goods or services which are produced or provided by an individual or a company. Trademark protection ensures that owners of a mark have the exclusive right to use them, and certain goods are identified by that particular mark. And then there is copyright, which talks of a particular owner of an individual or an organization who have a right over the subject matter that they have created. So these are World Trade Organization. With the coming of that, these terms have come into it, and you, me, or anybody can claim a patent to their invention, discovery, thought, idea, or creation. An organization can claim trademarks. We can claim copyrights, and so in all these, there are two, three indicators. You have a geographical indication where this thing has been created. Industrial designs have certain different acts in India. So this I'm not discussing in detail because these are Indian acts. The Patents Act in India, which have had certain amendments and normal things, and these are the Indian acts are there. In your country, there would be certain acts. This was a very briefly. I just wanted to make you aware that on international property rights, there have been international and global. Voices that have been coming up, and each country has also been putting up their property laws. For example, India has many property laws that it has put up. I'm sure your country also would have put those up. So this class, because it's a brief one, so just touching upon that, we've done. I hope this kind of made sense in a brief kind of introduction. Is it getting boring with me talking? Do we kind of do other things also on this? So, friends, do you have a patent or a copyright under your belt? I mean, as creators, as media professionals or others, do you have it? Do you have dreams of having a patent somewhere in life later? Okay, this is my unit visible to you guys? The next sharing that I've done. Yes, sharing of the screen is happening, right? So this is unit number 10, which is the block 3 second unit, which talks of the copyright law. I'll again do it very briefly because this is in specific the Indian copyright law. So this unit we have divided for your benefit of understanding and study into 4-5 basic structural elements: the main features of copyright, registration and assignment of copyright, licensing of copyright, and what constitutes the infringement of copyright. So in your country, the copyright law might be different, but it would just still help to kind of have a basic understanding of this law. Do you want to comment on IPR laws? Please say something. What do you feel there's a necessary thing to have international IPR laws, or should we have different IPR laws of different countries? As in, should it be a national decision or an international one?
I feel with the advancement of technology nowadays, the international one would work because, let's say, for instance, locally you would have created some product or service or whatever would be a process of something else.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If you are not protected, that would be easily be taken up by someone elsewhere, because he would claim that that is his or her idea. But otherwise, the international aspect of it, IPR, I mean, I feel that's the way to go.
Very
Yes.
correct, very correct. Especially with the coming of the digital technology, which has made the world, the global village, if you can use the term, the whole world is at your fingertips. So that becomes more or less very important. Yes, thank you for that input. I mean, that I was feeling, why do we need international laws and call this? Okay, one question that Elena had put in the chat box, she was wanting to know earlier when we were discussing the defamation and other things. She says that tabloids usually put up a lot of gossip stories and they might be infringing upon certain privacy and defamations. So, what is a take on that? So, tabloids, I think this is about yellow journalism. We all know yellow journalism exists. It does. And one unique thing about law is you are not unlawful till somebody points you out. I might criticize you in public, but till you go to the law and say that she has harmed my reputation and I would want to book her under the law of defamation, I am free. So anything till somebody brings someone to book, be it an individual or an organization or a publication, till that time they are free. So awareness of citizens, awareness of activism, a lot of activism, democracy, activist citizens is important. So yellow journalism, we all regard it as a lesser journalism. But if we enjoy reading gossips and tabloids and such websites, we see such channels also. If nobody points out to them, till that time they are free to exist. Court will not come to anybody to say, okay, you've done this wrong. Somebody will have to go to the court to say this person has done this wrong. For example, if I write a poem and Elena, you decide to copy that poem, and if I don't know of it, and I don't put an IPR case against you, you are free. Only when I put a case, okay, this was my thing, it was protected under copyright or IPR law, and now she should be fined, only then will the court of law take this into account. Do you agree that does this argument make sense?
Can I also chip in
Please.
as regards to what you are saying? Uh, Closer to that happened here in Malawi. Just because maybe it happened in music circles, it was in entertainment circles. Just because maybe our entertainment industry is not as that big. So there was a time that one musician locally in Malawi here did a certain song. Then there came some big musician from outside the country who just copied some of the concepts of that song and they made away with that song. And she was big outside there just because she's a big artist and whatnot. So this local person, just because he lacked patent issues and all those things, that song is making it big out there. And him here in Malawi, there is literally nothing that he is or he's benefiting. But the other artist there, just because he's big, I mean, she's big and whatnot, I mean, she's good to go. Yes.
Very true, very true. And we have such cases everywhere. Even in India, there are people who sometimes say, okay, somebody has copied a foreign film. The storyline is copied, or the concept is copied, and they make it into a local language, or a music tune, or certain, notes, musical notes are copied and made into a local language song. So till the international musician or the filmmaker or the story writer doesn't know of it, till that person, he or she doesn't claim, this person is free to put it and earn the profits from that person, right? If tomorrow this person claims right, then this person who has copied probably would be jailed, would be fined, or would be asked to give all the profits to the original creator. So here, of course, I think this also takes into account the yellow journalism, tabloids defaming people. If people are good to go about it and they do not ask any defenses, then nobody questions the person who is flaunting the law. Right? This brings us to our next kind of unit. I'll again very, very briefly, we have, this is unit number 10. So we have around 6 units, which I'll, okay, sharing here. Yeah. So I'll kind of cover in 7 minutes, these units. So now this brings us to the law of copyright, the Indian law, basically, we shall discuss here. Okay. To protect the interests of the creator and advancement of knowledge and learning, copyright legislations have been executed worldwide, right? This is part of the IPR. Like we said, in IPR, we deal with patents, trademarks, right? So copyright is there to protect the interests. India, being a signatory member of TRIPS and other international agreements, has comprehensively enacted its Copyright Act. India came up with the Copyright Act as early as 1957, and it has done several amendments from time to time to meet the needs of the changing times. So here we should try to provide an overview of various provisions of the Indian Copyright Act, including registrations, licensing, remedies, infringements, so all this. Now, to begin with, let me kind of try to define copyright for us. To reproduce the work in any material from storing to electronic means. So if I claim a copyright on an original work of my creation, I will have the right to store that material or to reproduce it in any manner, including the electronic means. So this is where the media comes into being. If we produce it in the means of electronic, as in television, radio, film, or internet, then of course it's mediated. Copyright also covers to the right to issue copies of the work to the public, right? To perform the work in public, to communicate it, to make any cinematographic film or sound recording in respect to that work. So these rights lie with the creator of this original piece of art, literacy, anything, the music, story, painting. Now, if we define the copyright, it also means to, like we said this, to reproduce, to store, to issue the copies, to perform the work in public, to have a cinematographic renderation of the work, also the right to translate or adopt the work, to do any of the acts which are specified above, to sell this work, to reproduce the work in any form, including depiction, right? 3D depiction, 2D depiction, communicate, copy, store, distribute, include the work in a film. All this is covered, to make adaptations of the work, okay? To sell the work, to hire the copy, to hire someone to actually produce that work. All this is covered under copyright. When we talk of film, this is mediated, of course, right? Now, I think this gives us a basic understanding of what is a copyright. Copyright in a work is not a single right, but like if I said I can make my story into a film. Now, to make it into a film, there are a lot of team people who are involved. If I want to produce this work of mine, I might be just an author and I might write a story. But if the story is made into a film, there are actors, there are screenwriters, there are directors, there are producers. There's a whole team which has been involved in making that into a film. Now, tell me, now, does the right for that film lie with the author of the story? I mean, is it a tricky question? Is the work a single person's work now? Tell class, it's open to discussion. As an author, as a literary creator, can I claim the right to the copyright of the mass production, distribution, or cinematographic renderation of my work? Does a film remain the sole copyright of the author? Because the film has a teamwork. What is your take or understanding on this?
Yes, the film has a teamwork, as you're putting it. But basically, who came up with the storyline first? Because there must be someone, in this case, the owner of that storyline. And it is this storyline, this person who's going to sell this idea to his or her team, so that it should be done or it should be made into a film. So who is specifically the owner of that storyline, and who is going to also sell that idea to the others? So I feel like the owner of the storyline is the author of that film.
Okay, Gaunde, now I'll have a little correction here. Thank you for the input. The writer of the film would have a copyright only on the story of the film, not on the entire film. So, as a writer, one cannot claim that I have the copyright over this film because the film is a teamwork. As a writer of a radio script, you can't claim a copyright on the entire radio drama because, again, it's a teamwork. So, the producer of the drama will have copyright of the drama. However, the writer will have copyright only on the story, only on the writing part. Is it? Got it? So if there is a music, if I'm a musician and I've created a tune or a music for something, somebody else has written the lyrics for that song, right? So the lyrics writer will have a copyright over the lyrics, over the writing part. The music creator will have copyright over the musical notes, not over the entire song. Now, these are some tricky questions, of course. This is a little tricky domain, and there is a lot of it is subject to interpretation of the law. If there is law dealing with it, then people can go. If you and me are working on a project together, we can both go to the law. So then it remains subject to the interpretations and the law. Right? Now, this is something that is interesting. There are no ideal rights and wrongs. There are no watertight compartments. There is nothing exact. There are always shades of gray, and those shades of gray need to be interpreted very properly by the judiciary. Right? Now, main features of the copyright: creations of a statute. Copyright has emerged from a statute. Forms of intellectual property are copyright is a form of intellectual property since the product over which the right is granted is actually a result of utilization and investment of intellect. So there is a monopoly right. Copyright is a monopoly right restraining others from executing that right which has been conferred on the owner of the copyright. So it is a monopoly. Nobody can ask for a share into that right. Right? There are in the case of literary and dramatic work, it is the author who can claim the copyright. In case of musical work, it is a composer who can claim the copyright. If it is an artistic work, the photographer or the artist is liable for the copyright. In case of photograph, the person taking the photograph. Now you can say, okay, I was photographed. It is me who is the subject. So should I be given the copyright? No. The photographer who is actually taking the photograph would be given the copyright. If it is a cinematographic film or a sound recording, then the producer or the principal director can claim the copyright. For the sound recording, it's the producer. For the literary, dramatic, musical, artistic work, or if it is a computer generated work, the person who causes the work to be created. Person, if it's a computer. I mean, can Chat GPT or an artificial intelligence robot claim a copyright? No. The human person who has caused that work to happen or being created can claim a copyright on that. Right? So these are some of the gray areas, confusing areas. So these are some of the clarifications for them. For photographs, painting, portraits, right? These are the things. There are certain agreements. The government should actually ensure that first owner of the copyright in a government work is the government, unless there is an agreement to the contrary. So if it's a government policy, so there are many policy makers. There might be a whole body, there might be a council, there might be a commission who has made that policy. Who will have the copyright? The government will have a copyright. So there are different works on which certain different definitions are there. So now
Madam,
we can talk. Yes, please. Yes, Elena, come up with a question. Yes.
yeah, what if a group of people came up to conceptualize the idea of making a film? Like they all sat down to, decide on the ideas of making a film and whatnot. I mean, who will be
Claim the
liable?
copyright.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, that's a valid question. So, as I said, a film has different elements. A film has music, a film has a story, a film has actors, it has many different elements. So, if there are two, three, four people who sat and wrote the story, so there are many stories who have multiple authors. So, there are films which name two or three authors. So they will claim the copyright for the story. The monopoly for that story will lie with this two or three group of people. There are many music composers who work in teams. In India, there are very famous teams of music composers. So they together will have a right on that music composition. So film will be dissected into different elements, and the person who made it possible. So the producer, the right to sell that film would lie with the producer or that production company. So the film would have different elements. And this is a very common thing. For example, you have a music which is distributed by different companies. So distributor claims the copyright to distribute that music and earn the profit from it. And they give a certain share to the composer, to the lyrics writer, to such people. So film involves a teamwork. So different people of the team will claim different rights of different elements of that film. This Oscar-winning film from India, Elephant Whisperers, has two women being awarded. Now, both of them own the copyright of that film because they together conceptualized and produced that film. So the team will have dissection of the different sections. Does that answer your question, Alenia? Does that confuse you more? Does it lend certain clarification? Okay. This was about film. If a government body has assigned a task to make a policy, who will claim the copyright? It is the government, right? Now, what are the rights of the copyright owner? These rights, a copyright owner has the rights to reproduce the work in any material, including storage or renderations, including electronic renderations also. So issue copies of the work in public, perform the work in public, make translations, adaptations, cinematographic films of the work, right? So all this we've kind of said earlier also. In case of sound recording, to make any other sound recording, embodying this recording. And in case of research papers, if you write something, you can write, quote your own research in your other researches also. To transmit, the right to grant the licenses, all this is there. But a copyright is not a natural copyright. You must go and register and ask for the assignment of this copyright. I mean, I might conceptualize a music or a film or a story or a painting in my own room, and I can't assume that nobody will copy it. And if people copy it, I will not be protected by law unless I have registered my work. So in India, something related to this, what happens is that there are very often there used to be allegations whenever there is a big filmmaker coming up with a film, there would be many small writers who would be saying that, I'm a small writer and I went to this filmmaker with my story, expecting that they would mentor me and they would help me producing my story. On the contrary, they took it and they made a film out of that story, and I am the original writer. Nobody would believe them. They had no rights to claim this. So what came up in the film industry in India is the Writers Association, and now they encourage people to have their stories copyrighted. So even if they are small writers, they have come up with they go to the Writers Association, have their story legally copyrighted, and then they go to producers with their story. So now if a producer tries to be unfair to them, they have a proof that my story was registered under the Copyright Act and I can claim that this is my story. So now these incidents of exploitation have reduced with this group or associations of writers in the film industry coming up. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that merely conceiving, conceptualizing, or producing an idea does not grant you any lawful protections. You have to go and register your idea and get an assignment of the copyright. Right? If no objection to this registration is made, then you are granted the copyright. If the registrar of copyright receives any objections, where you might be claiming a story and I say, oh no, this was my story, then the registrar shall actually, ask the people and try to make verifications and inquiries, and then they grant the copyright to the rightful owner. Okay? There can be rectifications of registrations, making any wrong or omitted information if somebody might be providing, somebody might again have a rectification of the copyright. So therefore, these are publicly published, that this person has claimed the copyright to these publications, and terms of copyright are there. There is a public understanding. These are publicly put out there, and then the copyright is assigned. There are certain processes to it, that the owner claims the copyright. It is put in the public. Objections are invited. If certain objections are not got, then the copyright is assigned. The modes of assignment are different to copyright of the works. Different works are assigned different copyrights, right? Where the assignee does not exercise the rights assigned to him. If somebody doesn't claim the objections, so then it is granted over there. Okay. Modes of assignments, you can kind of read. It's technically theoretical concepts. Licenses of copyright are granted to the owners. The works can be withheld by the public if there are certain objections. Okay. So kinds of, this is a broad understanding of it. Without a license, a copyright is not a copyright. There are certain guidelines from measuring the infringement. So if now somebody has got a copyright for a story or a film, can the certain section, can I use section of a film for educational purpose, can I not? So there are certain guidelines which say that okay, it might be a copyright, but for the public good, for educational purposes, for dissemination of information, you can still use this person's work up to a certain extent. So in area of plagiarism, it is 200 works or certain this many minutes of that film can be used, which is not considered infringement of copyright. So there are guidelines for measuring infringements where the theme is same, where the purpose is not commercial. All this is there. Okay. So this is all. There are certain acts in India which protect you against the infringement. You can kind of read these acts. What is infringement? What is not infringement? Usually, for educational purposes, copyright infringement is not considered. So if this is for the copyright is not there unless it is not being used for commercial purposes. So just to sum it up, the copyright law in India was uh, there because India is a member of the TRIPS and other conventions. So we had to come up with this. We came up with the copyright law in 1957. Certain amendments have been made to it on the description and definition of the copyright. There are certain provisions that determine what is a copyright. There are certain provisions which also determine that till what extent a copyrighted material can be used for educational and non-commercial purposes, what constitutes infringement, what doesn't. That is the Indian law. In your country, it might just be different. The law also lays down protections for the copyright righted person. So while there are protections, there are also certain remedies where these things can be used internationally or for the public good. I did not go into the details because they are there in your theory paper and they might be different in your own country. Did this make sense, friends? If this does, we'll come up to something which is very interesting, which are the cyber laws. Any thing that you wish to say about the copyright law? Is it good, bad? Is it different in your country? Should it be there? Now, like international property rights, which are international intellectual property rights that we said, do you think that there should be international copyright laws also, or there also need to be national laws for copyright? What is better, having national, having international, having both?
I think having international would be better, like something that cuts across. Yeah.
The borders.
Yes.
Okay. But I feel even national copyright laws are needed because there are so many things. As we said, there are music, there are writings, photography. So nationally, also with respect to communism, with respect to languages, they need to be protected because for in my country alone, there are so many languages, dialects which are being spoken. So locally and nationally also we need to protect them. Of course, there need to be international ones also. So it would be a good idea to have broad international laws and for each country to enact its own national laws, taking into consideration its cultural and local needs and demands. In my country, it is very, very common and normal for people to be, having folk cultures, certain tribal culture. So they are folk songs. So now these people are illiterate people. They are not aware of laws. And there are many instances where film producers take these folk tunes and songs and they imbibe them into films. So if somebody is aware of the local customs and the local folk music, then they can come to rescue of such people and have their folk cultures, dresses, designs. There are many designers, many international designers have at times been blamed by the media that they did take certain tribals who were illiterate, who were smaller communities, who were not aware of these international laws. They took their designs and they claimed them as their own. So sometimes the national and the local laws come to rescue of such a smaller groups, which are less aware of the international laws. So both these laws need to be there. International ones, of course, need to be there, but that does not diminish the importance of national laws on copyright. Do we agree to that?
Yes.
That makes sense. Thanks for giving these thumbs ups. But again, I mean, everything is just subject to interpretations. You might agree, might not agree, and it's good to have disagreements and debates across everything. Now we come to cyber laws, which again are in interest for all of us, because uh, cyber is something which has led the boundaries to diminish. We have cyber spaces which are international again. So in this unit, in the when you read this unit, I'm just introducing you to the concepts and not going into the details again. My only purpose in these classes, being the counseling classes and not teaching classes, remains that when you pick up the material that we've sent to you to read, you should not feel lost. You should think, okay, it should appear okay, but we have an idea of what to expect in this material. So in this unit, when you read it, the concept of cyberspace has been discussed, characteristics of cyberspace, the new emerging issues in cyberspace, then national and international cyber laws, Information Technology Act of 2000, which is Indian thing, the international laws, and then some of the national Indian laws like uh, pertaining to electronic signature, regulation of certifying authorities, Cyber Appellate Tribunal of India is being discussed, and certain intermediaries that we have, and certain types of cyber crimes. Cyber crimes, some case studies we have used to tell you about certain types of cyber crimes. Now, friends, in this era of rapid use of information communication technologies and networks, devices, server size, which is worldwide, the cyberspace has emerged as a new medium of communication. And we are all using the cyberspace to do this course from IGNOU, to sit at different ends of the globe, to research, to look at things. We watch web series which are international. We watch web series of different countries for entertainment, for intellectual growth. We all use this kind of global material, right? So, according to the International Telecommunication Union, international internet bandwidth is growing rapidly worldwide, and India is among the front runners for doing this. The new virtual space has given rise to many social and national issues, which has paved new challenges to deal with technology driven cyber crimes and protect persons' privacy and intellectual rights. I keep on getting on my WhatsApp certain messages like, I'm from Kenya, I am hiring, would you be interested? So I'm sitting in India. Why is somebody interested in hiring somebody from India? Because there is cyberspace, because you can all work online. So in this unit, we'll kind of discuss these kinds of things. Let's just know about the concept of cyberspace, which we all kind of broadly understand. Cyberspace represents a space which is created by science, where various events, sharing of ideas are taking place with the help of internet, connecting various computer systems and mobile phones. To a common person, cyberspace refers to the virtual arena without limits. There are no limits, there are no boundaries where one can meet people, discover information on any subject on the internet. The description of cyberspace is not 100% accurate, but it points out to some important characteristics of non physicality, social dimensions, and functionality. We are socially interacting, but we are not physically interacting. So, this is broadly what we understand by cyberspace. If we look at certain formal definitions that will give us characteristics of cyberspace, David Whitley says that in his book, he talked about cyberspace and the human dimension, in which he identified three characteristics of cyberspace. He says it is not physical location, but a virtual space. That means one needs some sort of physical access device with an artificial processing mechanism where we can interact with each other. We kind of interact and communicate between individuals and groups, where largely we are relying on technology and computer mediated communication. Now, from all this emerges certain issues in cyberspace. There is a need to have effective laws to deal with the problems of cyber social media crimes. There's a lot of fake news, rumor mongering, email spoofing, spams, cyber stalking, defamation. Many different types of cyber crimes are emerging, and the impact is huge. It is more than the conventional crime. Conventionally, a theft could only occur from your currency notes, which are physical. Now, the theft can occur from your online bank accounts that we discussed in the last half. Cyber crimes are usually committed, because of anonymity, it becomes much more easier. And this ease of circulation, which has given rise to many social debates. We did talk about last time that because of anonymity, when Astha was narrating a case, that she was being told on social media for something that happened. Right. Now, because people are anonymously, they have more freedom to troll. Anonymity gives them this power of creating criminal mindsets, of frauds, of phishing, of trolling. Right. So international and national cyber laws have emerged, which in this section, let us look at some of them. So the international laws, there is one unilateral model which came in 1996, which was the first model law on e-commerce. It was adopted by United Nations Commission on International Trade and Law. Then there was another model law on e-signature in 2001. The model law on e-signature was adopted by UN Commission on International Trade and Law, which aims to enable and facilitate the use of electronic signature by establishing the criteria of technical reliability, which is of equivalence between electronic and handwritten signatures. Now, international this electronic signature is so much easier to copy. I mean, somebody can just have a web capture, Control C, and then it can be captured as an image and it can just be put there. So there are laws which need to be coming in to protect this. And India has come up with in a big way. There are many national laws in India. The government of India is signatory to these international laws on e-commerce, and they have come up with their own acts, the Evidence Act, the Bankers Book Evidence Act, which were the old laws. They are being renovated kind of to suit into the cyberspace. So one very important law that India enacted was Information Technology Act in 2000, which aims to provide legal recognition of transactions carried out by the means of electronic data interchange. So this electronic commerce, e-com that happens, that is covered by this law. Then electronic signatures and electronic law records are also covered by Section 3A of this IT Act of 2000 in India. There are certain regulations of certifying authorities. These are different authorities in my country. They might be different in your country. The idea of telling you this is that very rigorous and robust electronic media laws need to come up, because there are cyber crimes which are coming in, and India is trying to do this in a very nice manner. There are specific digital signatory certificates that are given. There are authorities that are trying to do this, and the controllers have been given a lot of powers. There are different cyber bullying cells. There are cyber law cells which the Indian police has in every city, in every state. There are these controllers being put in India. There is also a cyber appellate tribunal, which is a national law. So any person who is aggrieved by an order that is made by the controller can appeal to these. So even if you are falsely or erroneously being convicted under the cyber law, you can appeal to the cyber appellate tribunal. This tribunal offers you certain protections, procedures, and powers are there. And there are many of the intermediary bodies that have been enacted so that citizens are protected against it. It's not that, I can complain and you can be booked under that law. Even you, as a convicted person, have your own protections, and you can appeal to these appellates and tribunals to get the protection under these laws. So these intermediaries do have these responsibilities, which are there. There are certain exemptions which are provided to the people, because cyber laws are such a new thing. There are chances that they can be misinterpreted and misjudged. Somebody can be misconvicted. So all these things are there. Who can file the tribunal things, all this is there. So cyber crimes are of many, many different types. There is a term that cyber crime, which refers to a wide range of crimes that involve computers and networks. These can be financial crimes, they can be bullying, they can be social crimes, they can be crimes against your mental health, they can be physical crimes, virtual crimes. All these types of computer crimes are there, and there are laws in India to protect all these kinds of computer crimes. And there are, I can't say that these are done and dusted. They're coming up every day. New crimes are emerging and new laws against these crimes are emerging. In India, there's a very new crime which is being known as sextortion, where people are being sexually assaulted through the virtual world and money is being extracted from them. There are certain cameras which are being switched on, people are being falsely alleged, or there are certain pictures. Somebody can have a picture and your photograph, people are putting other faces or in deep fakes, even the voice of the people is being falsely put there. So such protections again need to be there. In cyberspace, it is easy to forge a photograph. It is easy to forge a signature. It is easy to forge even the voice of a person. So these laws are being enacted as and when the cases are coming in. So there are certain cases that we have discussed in this unit. It would be good for you to read those cases. I'll not talk of these because these are very, very local cases. So we've kind of discussed different aspects relating to cyber law in this unit. When you read the study material, concepts of cyberspace, the need of regulations in cyberspace, cyber uh, laws, what are the protections under the cyber laws. So all this is being discussed in this unit. When you read it, I'm very, very sure that you would find it very interesting over there, and it would be good to read it there and kind of have certain, again, to draw certain local parallels from your place. So that this is broadly the content of this unit. Are there any questions, any comments, any observations that you want to provide to me in relations to cyber laws? Okay, in chat box, I see, ma'am, from your explanation, it seems like copyrights and intellectual property rights means the same thing. I need some clarification. Okay. Okay. No, copyrights and intellectual property rights are not the same thing, Elena, as we discussed. Copyrights are more to do with the created material, which is the written material or the artistic material. However, in intellectual property rights, there are two domains. One is to do with literary and artistic material, another is to do with the industrial material. So copyright doesn't cover the industrial material, it doesn't cover the tangible products, it doesn't cover the products that are being made. If you the design is covered but not the tangible product. However, in IPR, trademarks and patents are also covered. So copyright is a section of the IPR rights. Intellectual property rights, copyright is one of the sections in them. Other sections being patent and trademarks. So trademarks, patents, copyrights are part of IPR. Copyright is a smaller section which adheres to the artistic and the literary works more or less. I hope I've been able to kind of solve this for you.
Yes, yes.
Okay. This brings me to the next unit, which is the right to information. This I'll go over very briefly because this is a very specific Indian right. Like you people said that in a different country, it is called as right to access. So there are different, there might be different rights or different access to information in your countries, and I would encourage you to read about them. But to give you an Indian perspective, 5 minutes is what I'll take because this is unit 12 and I have 4 units to cover, 13 and 14. 15 is about case studies, which we can skip if wish to. So this is unit number 12. Is it visible to you? Yes, I suppose it is. I'm sharing my screen. So right to information, which is a specific Indian right, unit number 12 is dedicated to that. It would be interesting to know about this one. Okay, just a second. Yes, the camera is switched off. So it would be okay to not waste the internet bandwidth. Sorry. So like all other units, there is a structure in which we provide an introduction. What would you learn in this unit? The basic concept of right to information. The Right to Information Act in India came into being in 2005. And believe me, in last 17 years it is, 2005 to 2023. These 18 years, this right has been used by people extensively in India, and it has cultivated and helped the Indian citizens to get a lot of information and fight against corruption and exploitation also. So right to information and Indian constitution, we would discuss here. Then institutions covered under RTI, the impact of RTI, what are the constraints regarding RTI? Has it been amended? Of course, it has been amended. So Right to Information Act 2019, in 2005 it came into being. Then the act was amended in 2019. Then of course we would have the summary. You would be given a list of further readings if you wish to, and certain self-help exercises. So to briefly touch upon this unit and this concept of RTI, as we've famously call it in India. In a democratic setup, I think all of you would agree, information is an indispensable tool for good governance, which acts as an aid to ensure accountability of our administration. If the administration is accountable, if the people have this weapon of seeking information, then they would actually not do certain corrupt things. If somebody knows they can be asked questions, then it keeps them on book. In this regard, the Right to Information Act was passed by the Government of India in 2005. The purpose was to access the information and to ensure accountability and transparency in governance. In this unit, we talk of an overview of different aspects of the RTI Act, the historical development, the salient features that led to this. These are the learning outcomes which are a part of your unit. Now, right to information concept and evolution. How does it evolve in India? There are certain documents, records, and work by the state and certain organizations that would need inspection. So, taking certified samples of the material. Certain people started taking samples of the material. They started taking certified permissions for it. They would take notes and obtaining this information in ways of different ways. So then this act evolved where it was permitted that you can ask for information from certain organizations. You can even ask it in floppies, in discs. Now floppies don't exist anymore. Tapes, video cassettes, any kind of electronic model you can use to ask for this information, not only the written information. You can ask a ministry or a government body or another public body to provide you this information even in electronic format. So historically, how this came into being, the commitment towards transparent and accountable government is not only confined to India, but various countries across the globe have enacted laws and legislations to make information accessible to public. In fact, the first RTI law was enacted by Sweden as early as 1766, centuries back, and was largely motivated by the parliament's interest to access the information that is held by the king. The king used to be the ruler, and the parliament thought we should have access to this information in Sweden in 1766. With this result, the RTI Act was enacted. Right? So, Information Act also came into existence in India. The intent and objective of the RTI Act of 2005 has been significantly mentioned in the preamble, which states, the preamble of the Act states, an act to provide for setting out the practical regime of right to information for citizens to secure access to information under the control of public authorities, so as to promote transparency and accountability in working of every public authority. So the public authorities are public servants. They should be answerable to the public. This is what the preamble broadly says, and therefore this act came into being. The salient features of the RTI Act in India remain. This act promises to make the information more progressive, participatory, and meaningful. It encourages common citizens to enthusiastically participate in the process of governance. This extends the central and the state government as well. It also provides penalties. As I told you, if within a certain specific time frame the information is not provided by the body or by the institution, then they can be penalized, they can be put fines. The person who is liable to provide the information, that person can be penalized by the court of law. So therefore, that this lends an equal power to the citizens. So by the Indian Constitution, this act was enacted. In the state of Rajasthan, in the state of UP, we have many examples where people have used this act, and even on the national scale. Right to Information Act and Indian Constitution, we can say it is a right to know, which seems implicit in the right of freedom of speech and expression. So you are free to speak, to ask, to seek information. Institutions that are covered under the RTI are any law that is made by the parliament, any law that is made by the legislature is also covered by this. Bodies that are owned and controlled by state, by the government, by any financial bodies are covered in this. information that can be given by the public authorities, information that cannot be accessed by the public is also specified in this act. And what cannot be accessed by the public is any information that might harm the security of the nation. So I can't ask that how many security weapons my nation has, because if I ask it and I supply this information to the enemies of the nation, then it might pose threats to the security of my nation. So anything that has a threat to the security, sovereignty, or integrity of my nation, these such informations I can be told that will not be provided to the citizens. What has been the impact of right of information in India? The impact has been huge. It has been wonderful. It has been accountability of the public services, and less corrupt providence of the public services has happened. There are many, many examples to it, which have been discussed in the unit. When you read through the material, you will know it. So exorbitant expenditure on toilet construction was made. In 2009, there is one example that I'm discussing, and there is one person who was a special correspondent of one of the news organizations. This person questioned it, and all the financial expenditures were provided to this person, and he was able to unearth a scam here, right? So there are certain constraints that the country has found in implementing this act. Some of the government organizations would take very, very long in responding to them. And going to these constraints, obviously there have been certain amendments in the act which have been provided, which has made the information time bound, and constitutionally it has been enacted. So in 2019, we did have amendments which made this act much more better. So broadly, this is the act. And I think the broad point that I'm just trying to make in these 5 minutes that I covered this act are that in a democracy, if the citizens are aware, then the democracy can be strengthened. In India, we had a huge problem of corruption in public offices, but that problem is gradually reducing. Why? One, because of the mobile phones. Everybody has a camera in their hand. They can just click a video, upload it online. So any public servant can be called to book. And second, by enactment of such acts, which make the public offices, public institutions, public servants under a scanner when if you're any citizen is free to ask for information which is under public good. So a democracy is strengthened by constant enactments, the constant awareness of the citizens. Does this make sense, friends? This brings me to the last block, and we have broadly 15 minutes, which is a perfect time to cover this block of this course. So if you see in this course, we have covered regulations, ethics, some of the laws in India, constitution, some broad good laws like IPR, like copyright, one of the very advanced and forward, and I would say a progressive law by my country, which is law of right to information. And now I shall cover in this block the persuasive media, which is of special interest to Elena especially, laws relating to advertising and public relations, ethics and laws. I'll just give you an overview of what the units have so that when you read these units, you are able to understand them better. And unsaid, these counseling sessions would end today, friends, but we are there on the mail to answer any queries. While reading, if you find any obstacles, please feel free to get across to any of the faculty from School of Journalism and New Media Studies at IGNOU, and we'll be there for you always. Do we need a break, or with your permission, I move to the last block briefly?
We can move on
let's
to the last block.
because
Guys, I really need to thank you guys. I mean, you've been here since almost more than 3 hours. A 4-hour class is not a mean thing, okay? I mean, thank you so much for being there. I don't know how much sense I'm making or how boring or interesting it is, but the idea is to give you an overview. So really committed, and thank you. Hats off. As difficult as this for me for be speaking for 4 hours, it's not easy for you to be listening for 4 hours. I'm really glad
the
to
boring
be.
aspect.
Yes,
I'm
please.
saying
What?
remove the boring aspect, because I'm able to relate some of the things that most of the things that you're saying, they also happen in Malawi or across the globe. I mean, so I can easily relate. So it's not that boring. Yes.
Yeah, but listening to one person for 4 hours, I mean, great. You people need to be rewarded for this. So Okay, this brings me to the last section. I'll just share the presentation now. Okay, this brings me to the last section, which is to do with the laws and ethics in persuasive media. By persuasive media, I mean advertising and public relations broadly. I'll cover these three units broadly in 10 minutes: laws of advertising, ethics in advertising, and laws and ethics in public relations. Okay, these are also medias, so we need to cover them. Okay, and I, because advertising and PR is my field, I would want to do it in detail, but yes, with this much of time, we would kind of be able to do it just broadly. So the first unit in this block is to do with the ethics and laws in advertising, uh, which is unit number 13. We would introduce you, do the learning outcomes as all the units have the structure. So advertising laws in India, what were the early beginnings, important laws related to advertising and the ethics in advertising. Also the codes in advertising, where there are different bodies that govern advertising ethics in India. Two of the major bodies are Advertising Standards Council of India and Advertising Agencies Association of India. What is the difference between codes and laws? And further needs and challenges, all this we would discuss. Just to basically introduce the concept, advertising, as we all know, is an essential component to achieve a degree of success and earn profits in any industrial enterprise or commercial undertaking. You know, we all give this example that a newspaper is printed, if I say in Indian rupees, probably for 200 rupees, and I get it as cheap as 2 to 5 rupees. Why? Because there are advertising which are funding it. Most of the movies are made with crores or millions and billions of dollars and money in there, but you buy a ticket of as low as in India 100 to 500 rupees, and we see that movie. Why? Because somebody is sponsoring that movie. All your OTT series, the web series, the television channels, where are they earning? Not from a subscription. Subscription is a very small part of their profit or the earning bouquet. The major part is advertisement. But advertiser is always the villain. You know, nobody buys a newspaper to look at advertisements. You buy a newspaper to look at the news. Nobody switches on the television channel to look at advertisements. Nobody goes to a movie hall to look at advertisements, right? Advertisements are the silent creepers there. But what we forget is advertisements is what make the economy running. All the products are there. So we shall actually talk of how the advertisements need to be regulated. At times, what happens is because it is the advertiser who is giving in the money, so the news organizations trying to please the advertiser might compromise with the ethics. They might not give a news which is against the commercial body who is sponsoring them. So there are certain laws which need to be regulated. There are also criticism against advertising that they are unethical. They promote social stereotypes. They promote false claims. So all this is there. So how do we take consideration of these things? Broadly, just telling you, there are certain laws, international laws about advertising. In different countries, European Association, European Union, which is EU, has certain laws. Sweden has certain laws. UK has, US has. I'm sure your country also has laws. In India, advertising laws are not different. Like the media laws, there is no separate section in our constitution for advertising laws, but advertising laws, by default, advertisements are covered by different laws, right? The origin of advertising laws is concerned with earlier annals. There are no separate laws. The earlier beginnings about the history you can read out, but there are certain laws which we relate to advertising. For example, I'll give you four very basic examples. For example, the Emblems and Names Act of India, which actually says that none of the national emblems, national names, the national flag don't have to be derogatorily represented anywhere in none of the commercial uh, prototypes. These national emblems should be derogatorily represented. So automatically, the gamut of advertisements is covered under this. If in any advertisement you see the national flag being used, you can go and complain about this to the court under this law, the law that covers the national emblems and names. So there is no separate advertising law, but by default, these laws do cover the advertisements also. The Drugs and Cosmetic Control Act, which says that none of the drugs can be magically claimed to remedy something. You can't say, okay, magically I will make your hair grow. Magically I will make your skin glow. So that these are drugs and cosmetic control acts. But if an advertisement claims, so under this, there is very interesting example in India. We had a cosmetic cream that said fair and lovely. The name of that cream was fair and lovely, and it said that we would help you make you fairer, right? And they equated fair with lovely. So there are people who complained against that, and that cream had to change its name from fair and lovely to something else. Now they can't say this, that fair is equivalent to being lovely or being beautiful. So, and magical remedy of saying, okay, if you use this cosmetic skin, your skin color will become lighter. And who said that lighter skin color is equivalent to beauty? So there are people who said this, and that company was forced to change the name of the, they were lawfully asked to change the name of the thing, and they did change that. The Price Competition Act is there, where you can't claim the lotteries to be making you rich. So you can't advertise a lottery here. You can't say, okay, buy this lottery and you will magically become rich, right? Then there are the copyright laws again. You can't be using pieces of certain copyrighted uh, artistic material for your advertisements. So these are not exact advertising laws, but advertisements are covered under these gamuts. So other important laws for advertising are Cigarettes and Other Tobacco Products Act. So where they say that cigarettes and tobacco products, because they're harmful for your health, you can't advertise them. So in India, it is prohibited to advertise tobacco products. It is prohibited. So there is another act which talks of Indecent Representation of Women Act. So nowhere can women be indecently represented. You can't use a female body to be objectified. So if in advertisements it is happening, it can be booked under this law, right? Consumers Protection Act, the Trademarks Act. So all these acts, they are different. So in details, like the Emblems and Names Act, it protects the national emblems, the usage. Drugs and Cosmetic Act, I have discussed these, so as the names are clear. So these acts are there in the Indian Constitution. I'm sure in your constitutions also, there are certain different acts, even if you don't have an advertising section in your constitution, like in the Indian Constitution, we don't have it, still certain different laws cover advertisements, right? So these are in detail. These are the laws which you can read, of course, in the thing. Trademarks Act. If somebody has a trademark, the same trademark cannot be used by any advertisement openly. Consumers are protected, and you can't claim quick, rich things. And the other laws, you can't ridicule a caste, race, creed, color, or nationality in your advertisement. So if there are advertisements which are against the constitution, they of course have to be taken down. So all these kind of things are there, and there are certain journal laws which govern all the citizens of our country. Like you can't incite people or prompt masses to commit crimes. You can't, provocative speeches are not there. You can't incite them to be violent or breach of trust or embedment of suicide. So automatically advertisements do come under certain laws also. You can't depict women in hateful manner. Obscenity and vulgarity cannot be there. So it cannot be there anywhere. Of course, it cannot be there in the advertisements also. And there are certain also unethical practices that advertisements do. Sometimes advertisements claim. In India, it is very, very common to say, okay, there is saffron in your soap, where the soap is only would have hardly any saffron, because saffron is a very costly ingredient to have, but you claim those things. Or laws which protect children. So there have been laws where they say, okay, if there is this health drink in India, the popular health drinks are Nestle Milo, Horlicks, Bonvita. In your country, there might be certain other companies who might be producing health drinks for children. So if you mix this drink in the milk for the children would be more robust, more intellectual, more intelligent, more physically agile. So these kinds of ads are there when these acts are unethical, even if they are not unlawful, because these drinks might just have higher quantities of sugar. So that these kinds of things are there to have ethical practices for, like we have regulatory practices for media professionals and news. There are also ethical practices for media advertisings. So advertising codes are there. So there are different bodies like Advertising Agencies Association of India, Advertising Standard Council of India, which has put into existence certain ethical codes. So you can have a detailed understanding of these codes when you go to this unit. And there are bodies that govern the ethical advertising. So apart from laws, there are also regulatory ethical bodies that govern advertisings in India. So there are differences between laws and ethics, which we all understand. I'll not be repetitive on that. And there are certain challenges, as we say, as and when the media keeps evolving. There is one saying in advertising agency which we use, being an advertiser, I'll tell you, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So if you put laws and ethical curbs or regulatory frameworks on me, I will find out ways to go and you know fulfill my objectives. So if people are finding out ways to go against these laws and regulatory frameworks, then these frameworks have to again become more agile and more strong. So this kinds of happens. So broadly in this unit, we have covered the that why do we need advertising ethics, because advertising is a very very commercial field, and people do tend to uh, get unethical and unlawful when they have economic motives and financial motives at hand. Money makes the world go round, as they say. So when there is money, people would want to flaunt the laws. So there are ethical practices in my country. There are laws which are not specifically advertising laws, but which do govern advertisements also. And you will have a detailed understanding of these when you go through this unit. So it was just a broad overview what to expect when you kind of read this unit. This brings me to the last unit. I will open the floor for questions or anything that you wish to say after going through this very broadly in a couple of minutes. I'll just tell you what is this last unit. This last unit deals with the, just a second. Oh, okay. This last unit deals with public relations and the laws of public relations. I hope it is visible. Is the screen visible with the last unit? So this is unit number 14. After this, we have certain case studies which might vary from nation to nation and place to place. This is to do with public relation ethics and laws. A relevance of ethics in public relations. Now, what exactly is public relations? And the ethics in business, ethics of multinational corporations, PR acting as front organization, philosophical traditions, and professional codes of ethics, laws concerning public relations are all that we've discussed here. Let me broadly give you a difference between advertising and public relations. See, advertising, we say when you can identify a sponsor. It is an act of persuasion when there is money involved and an identified sponsor. When somebody who is showing you an advertisement has paid for your advertisement and you know who has paid for it. Public relations, on the contrary, is when you might not know that it is a paid promotion. It might just happen. So previous unit dealt about advertisements which are sponsored, who are identifiable. Public relations becomes all the more dangerous. People might believe that these are true views that you are giving. However, you might just be paid for that opinion. And with the advent of digital media, all these social sites where you have influencers, public relations has gained more ethical responsibility, because you might believe in an influencer thinking that these are their natural views. However, that influencer might be paid by a company to give those views. So therefore, the general public, now it is becoming all the more important. Now they ask people that it has become, in India, it has become compulsory for an influencer to say if it is a sponsored content. On their Facebook or Instagram pages, they have to write, this is a sponsored content. Okay. So with the advent of these social sites, public relations has come more under the purview of ethical things. So relevance of ethics in public relations is public relations should ensure that the truth is being told to you. The truth can be proven with action. The customer and the consumer has to be listened to. There has to be an ethical practice, of course, in any business. So again, it is a commercial motive involved. In India, there's a very, very common practice whenever a new film is to come and there's a publicity of the film which is being made by the star cast of the film. So they would spread rumors about the major hero and the heroine to be having affairs. And after the film has gone, the rumors of the affair take a backseat. So just to incite certain interest in the star cast, people would become interested and look at their Instagram accounts and look at their social media, and the interest in the movie would be put out there. So just to incite their interest, certain rumors, wrong practices for the publicity are being thrown into there. So unethical practices are involved in PR for publicity also. So if a company is there, you can't, if it's a famous company, if they pay a reporter to publish a press release as it is, So it is unethical for the reporter to write about the company without verifying the facts. So these kinds of unethical practices do happen. And I'll just broadly tell you about. I don't want to go on what is being already covered in the unit. This presentation is out of the unit. Let me, because the time is almost running out, let me just tell you very broadly about certain concepts. See, internationally and in my nation, internationally broadly, in public relations, there's a practice called lobbying. And internationally, many of the nations are known to have lobbyists. It's a designated profession which is legally allowed. So, whenever there is a bill in the parliament, there are lobbyists who go to the members of parliament and try to lobby that bill. Now, this is PR, this is public relations. They might be paid for it, but they're not paying people for that believing. So these kind of PR practices where you talk about PR is nothing but relations. Relations are in two manners, with your internal publics and the external publics. The external publics are the stakeholders, the publics, the audiences, the citizens of the country, and the internal publics are your employees in a company. If there is a organization, the employees who are working for the company, internal publics. So PR ensures that you should have good relationship with the internal and the external both publics. The ethics in PR ensures that you should be truthful in dissemination of the information. So there are in India, there is Public Relations Council of India, PRSI, and PRCI. These are two organizations. They do ensure that ethical practices are formulated and followed. And internationally, you have public relation bodies who again talk of the ethical practices. So the laws are generally whatever the country's laws are there, they are also applicable to the PR. There is no different PR laws, but PR is a practice that relies more on ethics than on laws. Right? This is broadly these 14 units. In the last unit of your course, we have taken some of the case studies related to advertising and PR, where we see examples of unethical or unlawful practices and how the law or the regulatory body curtailed those practices. So you can read across those case studies like stories. It would be interesting to read. And it would be interesting to draw parallels from your own country, seeing and trying to see how advertising and public relations are followed as ethical practices and how it is ensured that they become regulated, ethical, lawful professions in your country and internationally also. So this is kind of a broad overview of this course. Of course, we can't go into the whole detailed teaching, but you are all professionals and grown-up adults. I trust you that you would be able to read through the study material. And again, if any confusions, you can talk to me later. So I finish off with the syllabus with this thing. Are there things that you would like to comment upon and ask? I know, friends, you'll be listening for 4 hours. It is huge. Thanks a ton for this. Is there been an example in your country where an advertisement has flaunted the law of the country and that advertisement was asked to be taken off? In my country, there are many, many examples. So there was one film in which the film protagonist, the heroine of the film, was shown draped in the national flag. And people did say that this is against the protection of the integrity of national emblems. And the film was asked to take off that posters of that thing. There have been other incidents where certain ads have to be taken off if they were flaunting the competitions. So there's a toothpaste which says that this toothpaste removes 99% more germs than the competitive brand. And the competitor said that 99% more than what? So this is a hypothetical statement. And the regulatory body took note of it and the company was taken to asked to take off that advertisement. So there have been such good examples also. The Indian Premier League, which is the famous cricket league in country. So last year, there have been 7 examples where huge money is involved to put an advertisement in that cricket league. There is huge money, but 7 companies were asked to take off their advertisements because they were thought to be under against the laws or maybe against the ethical practices. So there are many incidents where certain PR and advertising practices are regulated by the Indian regulatory bodies here. Are there certain examples in your country which you can think of? And even if you can't, I would encourage you to research and read about and see where such practices can have been curtailed. This is all from
Malawi,
my side for today. Yes, yes, please. Yes, come on.
yes. Malawi has also some instances where we have experienced such in advertisement or even in the public relations. There have been instances where advertisements have been uh, taken off or scrapped off from the billboards and whatnot, just because they have maybe infringed on the rights of the people and even failed to uphold to
The
ethical
laws.
consideration. Yes, there have been such instances. I remember the classic one is one of our power utility companies, ESCOM. It's called ESCOM,
Okay.
Electricity Supply Corporation of Malawi. Yes, it had a motto which says "Power all day, every day."
Okay.
Uh, Contrary to that, Malawi has been experiencing blackouts more often than we would expect the power that this institution was propagating to be giving its people. So some consumer protection associations and whatnot went to court, sued this company for this motto, and the company was forced to leave using this motto up until recently. That we are just surprised that they are again using it. I don't know how, but that's what happened, and so many other
But that's
instances
that's
that
really
we have.
brilliant. A commercial company, because of activism, was asked to take out one logo, which is just a motto. I mean, they're
Yes,
not claiming. Everybody knows it's an ad, but that's brilliant. Citizen
yes,
activism is really a nice thing. I mean, more than the government, it is the citizens who can help uphold the ethical responsibilities. Actually, good to know.
yes, yes.
Elena, Simon, are you there? Any examples from your country with this context?
Yeah, I also remember one in Uganda
Uh-huh.
that was involving a leading telecom company. They happened to run an advert on all media platforms. I'm talking about radio, television, and it was in form of a song, but that song was indirectly attacking government.
That song was, please come again. Alan, are you there?
Like from all.
Sorry,
Yes,
we
yes.
lost your voice. So that was in the form of a song, is all that we could hear. What did you say after
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I was saying the advert was in form of a song that was played in all media platforms,
Mm-hmm.
uh, radio, television, and also I think social media somehow. So the advert seemed to have some sentiments that were indirectly attacking government.
Okay.
Then yeah. So later on, people fell so in love with the advert, and they now started calling the president's name using that particular advert. The president got annoyed. One time he was addressing the nation and he ordered for it to be pulled down. He was like, "We didn't want to hear it in any other." So, but then I think initially it wasn't directly. I mean, the telecom company had no intention of attacking the government, but I think because of the anger and maybe the words used in the song, maybe people like kind of related it to the government or something like that. So at the end of it all, the government ordered
So
for it
maybe
to be pulled
unintentionally,
out.
but they caught in the net. Okay, that's interesting
Yes, yes,
example.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay, friends, it was really, really, really nice to have all of you here. I think we had a better attendance last week. Nevertheless, we've had 4 2-hour classes, which is good. So, having spent these 8 9 hours with you was a enriching experience for me as well. I hope it has been good for you. And we are always there for you for any support that you wish. My email ID, my phone number, everything is there with you guys. You can reach out to us. Would be better to reach out on the email because that kinds of remains a record and we can reply you on the record. Wishing you all the best for all your studies. I hope IGNO is a good experience for you.
Yes, it has been a wonderful experience for me particularly, and I believe my colleagues as well. And then I wanted to find out where we can get the email,
Okay, I
your
had
email.
written the email. I'll just put that email out there in the chat box. You were not there last week. I had put that email there. So I'm just putting
No,
it.
I
It is
was actually,
oh, yes, you were there, but you were in the salon. So you probably did not
yes.
take the notes. Okay. Yes, you were there. I remember. So it is Padmini Jan at ignore.ac.in, PADMINI, which is my first name, JAIN, which is my surname, that's my family name, at the rate IGNOU, which is the organization, dot AC, which stands for academic in India, and IN, which is India. So if you decipher it, it is igno.academic.india, so AC.in. Isn't it interesting how we frame our email address is also great. So that this tells us. So this email address, I never realized it tells me about my name, my organization, my country, and that I'm an academic. Brilliant. So Padminijan at ignore.ac.in is the email ID. Welcome for any questions. Thank you all of you for being there. I really missed those who were not there today and who were there last time. Asta, Abdullah, the people. But anyways, it's a Sunday and you people took out time. I'm grateful to you for that.
Thank you, madam. It has been a great experience for us, and I personally enjoyed the lecture. That's why I had to sit all this long
You
until
stayed for
the end.
4 hours. Thank you so, so, so much.
You are welcome. So we shall reach out to you in case of anything.
Of course, you're welcome to question me for anything. So I'm stopping the recording. We can continue if you wish to ask me something. So the purpose, official purpose, I have done with the lecture. So I'm just stopping the recording. Okay. Do you have anything else to ask? You're most welcome.